When you think of medieval food, you imagine grand banquets, meats, and wine, right? Forget all that. The truth is that the European table of 1200 was much greener, smarter, and more surprising than the movies show. No potatoes, no tomatoes, just the original superfoods that history forgot. Today, we're going to unearth 20 lost vegetables from the Middle Ages that not only sustained a civilization, but hold the secrets to healthier and tastier eating in our days. Get ready for a journey to a 13th century monastic garden where every plant was a remedy, every leaf a prayer, and every flavor a story. What you'll discover might forever change the way you look at your own kitchen. Get ready to meet leaves more nutritious than kale, roots sweeter than carrots, and herbs with aromas so complex they could rival any exotic spice. What you'll discover on this journey might forever change the way you look at your own garden and kitchen. This isn't just a history lesson. It's the rescue of ancestral wisdom that can help us live healthier and more connected today. By the end of this video, you'll not only know these forgotten treasures, but understand why they urgently need to return to our plates. The medieval garden is waiting. Let's open it together. Our journey begins with the leaves, the silent heroines of the medieval diet. They were the first line of defense against hunger, stubbornly sprouting in poor soils and under gray skies. Among them, the noblest and most discreet was the orrache, also known as mountain spinach, a distant relative of amaranth and quinoa. Its lance-shaped leaves, with shades ranging from light green to deep purple, grew firmly along the edges of monasteries. The gardener monks revered it for its hardiness. It didn't ask for much, just a bit of sun and the blessing of rain. In return, it offered dense nutrition, rich in vitamins and minerals. Sautéed in potages, the thick stews that were the basis of the diet, orrache added color and substance to cold days. It was the symbol of simplicity that nourishes without demanding, the proof that strength can come from delicacy. Right beside it, with surprising audacity, flourished the sorrel. Small, with leaves that resemble a pointed heart, it held a secret, a lively, tangy, and refreshing acidity. In a time when lemons were an exotic and expensive rarity, sorrel was the citrus touch that awakened the palate. It was used in sauces to accompany river fish and game birds, cutting through the fat and bringing vibrant freshness. Just a pinch of its leaves was enough to transform the flavor of an entire meal. It was proof that nature offered complexity even in the smallest packages. Completing this trio of resilience was the good King Henry, or Perpetual of the Year. What a powerful name for such a humble plant. It was the true medieval man's supermarket. Its young triangular leaves were harvested in spring and used like spinach. Later, the shoots emerging from the base were picked and prepared as the asparagus of the people. And in autumn, its seeds could be ground and added to flour. It was a plant that gave year-round, a cycle of generosity that taught about planning and total utilization. Imagine today, a sorrel pesto for pastas, an orrache leaf quiche, or good King Henry shoots sautéed in olive oil. These are flavors that tell the story of survival, ingenuity, and the profound resilience of our ancestors. If the leaves ensured survival, the aromatic herbs nourished the soul. The scent of a monastic garden was a complex symphony, a blend of incense, damp earth, and the potent perfume of the plants that formed the basis of medieval culinary alchemy. In the cold kitchens of abbeys where the fire flickered low, wild celery reigned supreme. Known as Alexander's, this was not the pale celery we know today. It was a robust plant, deep green, with an intense perfume that balanced between celery, myrrh, and black pepper. Everything about it was utilized: the leaves in soups, the stalks in stews, and the seeds ground, used as an exotic spice. It grew in the shadows of walls, with firm roots and broad leaves, and its flavor was that of resilience itself. Beside it, completing the aromatic holy trinity, was the wild celery, or smallage. A direct ancestor of our modern celery, it was more fibrous, stronger, and with a much more concentrated flavor. It wasn't eaten raw. Its role was in the base, the foundation of flavor. Monk cooks, after long hours of prayer, combined it with onions and wild carrots to create the true medieval mirepoix, the sacred aromatic base of almost all hot dishes. It was a slow and meditative process, where the aromas mingled in the cauldron like a liquid prayer.
And to bring a touch of color and joy to this world of deep greens, there was borage. Its rough and hairy leaves hid a surprise. Sky blue flowers, so perfect they seemed like small stars fallen to earth. But its beauty wasn't just ornamental. The flowers had a fresh and surprising cucumber flavor and were used in salads, candied in sugar, or added to infusions. The monks believed borage gladdened the heart and warded off melancholy. It was the plant of happiness. A tip that spans the centuries. Freeze borage flowers in ice cubes. When added to a summer drink, you're not just refreshing, you're taking a sip of the Middle Ages. These plants were proof that, from medieval cooks, flavor and aroma weren't luxuries, but a form of devotion. Within the living pharmacy that was the medieval garden, some vegetables transcended mere sustenance. They were considered sacred, divine gifts, with powers that went beyond nutrition. The most imposing and revered of all was angelica. With its tall, robust stalks that could reach 2 meters, and its inflorescences that opened like green fireworks, angelica dominated the garden. Legend said its healing virtues were revealed to a monk in a dream by the archangel Michael himself. Hence its name, Angelica archangelica. It was the plant of protection. Its sweet and musky fragrance filled the cloisters, and it was believed its aroma purified the air and warded off diseases and evil spirits. Its use was an act of alchemy. The thick stalks were harvested with devotion, peeled, and slowly candied in sugar syrup, transforming into translucent sweets that resembled pieces of green jade. They were a rare and precious treat, served on feast days. The leaves and seeds were used to flavor breads, liqueurs, and remedies. And angelica tea was comfort for body and soul in times of plague and fear. It represented the perfect balance between the sacred and the savory, faith and botany. Equally respected, but for its earthly strength, was lovage, more commonly known as labriola. This was the plant of the strong, a giant perennial herb whose leaves resembled wild celery, but with an incredibly complex aroma. Notes of celery, parsley, anise, and even a touch of curry. Just one leaf was enough to perfume an entire cauldron of soup. It was the bouillon cube of the Middle Ages, a natural and powerful flavor enhancer. Its name, lovage, derives from the Latin legisticum, which in turn comes from Liguria, in Italy, where it grew abundantly. It was the symbol of vitality, the plant that helped endure long winters without losing faith or strength. Together, the heavenly angelica and the earthly lovage symbolized the duality of medieval life, the quest for spiritual salvation and the need for robust strength to survive in the material world. Medieval ingenuity in the search for food wasn't limited to the walled gardens of monasteries. The wild nature offered its own treasures, often in dangerous and unexpected places. On the rocky, wind-swept coasts of the Celtic Sea, a plant of pure courage grew, sea angel herb, today better known as rock samphire. Rooted defiantly among steep cliffs and the salty foam of tides, it was harvested at risk of life. Men and women descended by ropes to reach its fleshy and succulent shoots, which held the flavor of the ocean itself, salty, citrus, and with a mineral touch. It was the perfect accompaniment for fresh fish, but its true value lay in preservation. Pickled in brine or vinegar, samphire transformed into a vegetable jewel that could be stored for months, bringing the sea's flavor and vital nutrients like iodine to the table during long winters. Each jar was a capsule of summer, a testament to human bravery.
In total contrast to this adventurous harvest, another treasure grew silently and humbly, often under the inattentive feet of peasants. On the beaten paths of villages, where the ground was hard and the sun merciless, purslane flourished. Creeping, with its reddish stems and small shiny leaves, it was often seen as a simple weed, but the wise and the poor knew its secret. Purslane was a well of nutrition. Its succulent and crunchy leaves are one of the richest plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids. It was an ancestral superfood, ready to be harvested without demanding anything in return. During dry summers, when gardens suffered, purslane thrived. It was used in fresh salads and light stews, and its slightly acidic flavor was incredibly invigorating. It was the luxury hidden in the simplicity of the earth, a spontaneous gift from nature. Imagine today the elegance of pickled samphire served with oysters, or the healthy simplicity of a purslane salad with yogurt and mint. These two vegetables, one from the dangerous sea and the other from trampled earth, teach us a powerful lesson. Nature provides, whether in the noisy abundance of waves or in the generous silence of a weed. If the leaves were the daily sustenance and the herbs the soul of the kitchen, the roots were the pulsating heart of the medieval diet. Hidden under the earth, protected from cold and frost, they were the guarantee of energy, the storage of sweetness, and the base of almost all winter meals. Before the potato dominated Europe, the undisputed queen of the fields was parsnip. Ivory-colored and conical in shape, this root was incredibly versatile. Cooked in soups and pottages, it added a creamy body and an earthy flavor. But its true moment of glory was when roasted over the fire. The heat transformed its natural sugars, caramelizing it until it was golden and with a flavor reminiscent of honey and nuts. It was a luxury accessible to all, from king to peasant. Competing in popularity, especially in northern monasteries, was salsify, or goat's beard. This long and slender root, with a whitish skin, held a surprising secret. When cooked, it developed a delicate and unmistakable oyster flavor. It was a culinary miracle, the taste of the sea born from the earth. In creamy soups or simply boiled and served with butter, salsify was a comfort dish that warmed body and spirit during the harshest winters. But there was a root considered the lost jewel, the most coveted treasure of medieval gardens, skirret. Its roots didn't grow alone, but in clusters like thin white fingers. They were incredibly sweet, with a complex flavor between carrot, parsnip, and sweet potato. Cooked in milk with spices like nutmeg and cinnamon, skirret was a dish worthy of a festive banquet. Its buttery texture and sweet perfume made it the secret of great cooks. And to complete the subterranean quartet, the mysterious scorzonera, also called black root. Its dark and wrinkled skin hid a snow-white interior with a creamy texture and delicate flavor. It had a reputation as a fortifying food, consumed by monks and soldiers to restore strength. It was even believed to cure snake bites and other poisons. Together, these four roots formed the foundation of medieval survival, proof that true wealth often doesn't shine on the surface, but waits patiently to be unearthed.
Some medieval vegetables were so special, so intertwined with the culture of the time, that they leaped from the garden straight into the pages of folklore and legends. Their stories were told around the hearth on cold nights, transforming them from simple foods into symbols of desire, magic, and destiny. No vegetable encapsulates this better than the delicate rampion. With its tender leaves that could be eaten in salads, and its small white roots with a sweet flavor between nuck and radish, rampion was one of the first spring delights. But it became immortal for another reason. It was this plant that inspired one of the Grimm brothers' most famous stories, Rapunzel. In the legend, the young woman's mother, pregnant, feels an overwhelming craving for the rampion growing in a neighboring witch's garden, so her husband risks stealing it. The theft is discovered, and the price to pay is their own daughter. Thus, the humble rampion became, in the European imagination, the vegetable of forbidden desire, a food that beyond sustenance was a metaphor for temptation and the harvest that seals a fate. Another vegetable of almost legendary status was the majestic cardoon. A wild cousin of the artichoke, it was a spiny and imposing plant. Its long, fleshy stalks, after being carefully blanched to become soft and tender, were a delicacy served at grand banquets, usually boiled and covered with rich cheese and herb sauces. But cardoon held a secret that elevated it from simple food to a tool of alchemy. The juice extracted from its purple flowers had the power to coagulate milk, serving as a vegetable rennet. This allowed the making of delicious cheeses in regions where animal rennet was scarce or forbidden for religious reasons. Cardoon wasn't just food, it was the key to creating more food. While rampion and cardoon shone in legends and banquets, a more discreet treasure hid in the damp shadows of woodlands: wood sorrel. With its small clover-shaped leaves, delicate as butterfly wings, it held a citrusy and refreshing flavor, like a spring rain. Monks and hunters used it to season meats and make invigorating teas. It was the pure acidity of the forest, a symbol of purity and renewal. It was believed to bring luck and protect against evil spirits. Each of these plants proves that in the Middle Ages, food was never just food. It was history. It was magic. It was culture. Thus, our journey through the medieval garden comes to an end. We have traveled a path of resilient leaves, sweet roots, and sacred herbs. We saw how between 1200 and 1500, Europeans lived in a symbiosis with the land that today seems almost magical to us. The monastery gardens weren't just cultivated fields, they were sanctuaries of biodiversity, botanical laboratories, and living pharmacies, where faith and agriculture intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree. Every leaf harvested was a prayer of gratitude. Every seed planted was an act of faith in the future. Today, these 20 forgotten vegetables resurface not as mere curiosities from a distant time, but as bridges between our past and our future. They bring us profound lessons in simplicity, resilience, and above all, respect for the cycle of nature. What monks and peasants knew instinctively, eating local, living with the seasons, utilizing every part of the plant, valuing diversity, we in our era of excess are rediscovering out of necessity. The medieval garden was a mirror of the harmony we lost and now desperately seek to reclaim. Perhaps by planting orrache again in a pot on the balcony, roasting a golden parsnip in the oven, or daring to search for skirret at a farmer's market, we are doing more than just cooking. We are sowing memory. We are rescuing a part of ourselves that was buried by time. May every root we unearth be a reminder that the past still breathes under our feet, pulsing with flavors and wisdoms waiting to be rediscovered. Now, the final question of this journey is for you. After getting to know these lost treasures, which of these medieval vegetables would you most like to try or even plant in your garden? Which story, which flavor, which plant fascinated you the most? Leave your comment below using the hashtag #MedievalGarden. Let's create a map of curiosity and see which of these vegetables deserves to be the first to return to our tables. And if you believe, like I do, that the past holds the seeds for a healthier and more sustainable future, subscribe to the channel and share this video. Together, we can make the Garden of Time bloom again.